What if God has already spoken about what unfolds after October 31st, 2025? How would you live today? We are standing at a threshold. Calendars flip like pages in the wind, but thresholds are more than dates, they are doors. Some doors open because we knock. Some open because time itself turns the handle. After October 31st, the door will swing, and what steps through will not surprise heaven, only us. This is not fortune telling, this is alignment. History is a harvest. Life brings forth what we plant, whether we remember the planting or not. After October 31st, expect the law of sowing and reaping to feel nearer than the air in your lungs. Seeds of compromise will try to bloom into consequences. Seeds of faithfulness will press into fruit. Some will say, everything changed overnight. It didn't. It ripened. The unseen will become seen. The whispered will grow a voice. The ignored conviction will stand in the doorway and ask for an answer. There are 3 paths on the other side of this date. The first is renewal. It visits the heart that bows low. Where there has been dryness, renewal sends rain. Where there has been fear, renewal sends courage. The second is refining. It comes to the willing not to break them, but to burn away what cannot carry destiny forward. The third is reckoning. It knocks on doors long bolted against truth, not to shame but to stop the drift. You will not choose the season, but you can choose your stance within it. After October 31st, masks won't fit like they used to. Titles will matter less, testimonies will matter more. Platforms will shake, altars will stand. The shortcut will look like a cliff, the long road will look like home. There will be sudden turns. Some will call them disruptions. Those who listened will call them deliverance. Watch for closed doors that kept you safe. Watch for open doors you once feared to try. When honor becomes the language of your decisions, favor will understand your address. Do not fear what is coming, fear missing it. Fear the numbness that tells you there's nothing sacred about time. There is. A threshold invites a vow. Make one before the door swings. Decide who you are on the far side. When the wind rises, it's too late to plant an oak, but not too late to decide where you will stand. The threshold principle teaches us that moments in time are more than markers on a calendar. They are gateways. After October 31st, 2025, life will not simply roll into November as another date. It will unfold as a doorway into a season where what has been planted in secret will begin to surface in the open. The universe, creation, and even the human spirit operate on the law of sowing and reaping. And though it often feels delayed, it is never denied. Every action, every choice, every word spoken or unspoken carries the power of a seed. For a time the ground conceals it, keeping it out of sight. But after a season of waiting, what was sown pushes through the soil of life and becomes impossible to ignore. This principle is both sobering and hopeful. Sobering because none of us escapes it. The seeds of compromise, dishonesty, bitterness, or selfishness we scatter in daily habits eventually bloom into consequences that can feel overwhelming. Hopeful because the seeds of faith, discipline, integrity, and love never fail to produce a harvest either. We may feel unnoticed, unseen, or even forgotten, but the good we sow in secret is just as certain to come into view as the bad. After October 31st, 2025, we will not step into randomness. We will step into revelation. The hidden will be revealed. The harvest will begin to press upward. And the surprising part is that many will look around and call it sudden, when in truth it is the natural outgrowth of what has long been building beneath the surface. This is why the threshold principle demands our attention now. Before the door swings open, every delay in turning away from destructive seeds is a delay in escaping destructive fruit. Every day we ignore small compromises, they grow roots deeper into our character. But every day we choose to shift, even slightly, toward integrity, toward compassion, toward self-control. We plant oaks where weeds once stood. The ground does not lie. Soil cannot be fooled. What goes in will eventually come out. Imagine a person who has lived the past year sowing seeds of secrecy, addictions hidden from family, lies told to protect reputation, bitterness carried like armor. To them, November 1st will not feel like a neutral morning. It will feel like a weight pressing through the cracks of the door they thought was shut. Their harvest will come, not as punishment, but as exposure, because life cannot hold back forever what we choose to cultivate. Yet picture another who has spent the same year sowing seeds of discipline, choosing gratitude when complaint was easier, choosing forgiveness when anger felt justified, choosing honesty when deception seemed more profitable. To them, the threshold will open not into fear but into breakthrough. The harvest will not be terrifying, but affirming. This is why the threshold principle is not meant to make us tremble in dread, but to awaken us to urgency. After October 31st, 2025, the seeds already in the ground will continue to push upward. But we still have today to decide what kind of harvest will rise tomorrow. We cannot change last year's planting, but we can absolutely change today's. That is the mercy of time. That is the mercy of God, that until the final breath, we can still choose different seeds. So when the date arrives, do not be surprised by what emerges. Do not call it sudden. Do not call it unfair. Do not call it unexplained. It will be the outworking of the threshold principle. What is hidden will be revealed. What is planted will be reaped. And what has been ignored will rise to demand attention. The question is not whether this will happen, but what will be waiting on the other side of that door for you. Will it be weeds that choke or fruit that feeds? Will it be regret or reward? The principle is certain. The harvest is inevitable. The decision remains in your hands today. After October 31st, 2025, no one will be able to avoid walking down one of these roads, because thresholds separate what was from what will be. What determines which path unfolds is not luck or chance, but the alignment of our lives with truth, humility, and courage. The first path is renewal, and it is the path of those who have humbled themselves, who have chosen to return to what matters most. Renewal is not simply a fresh coat of paint. It is life returning to dry bones. It is water flooding barren ground. It is clarity where there was confusion and light where there was shadow. Those who have spent time sowing in quiet prayer, walking in integrity when no one was watching, and holding fast to principles when compromise would have been easier will find that this threshold opens into unexpected strength. For them, the future will not feel like fear, it will feel like fresh wind in their sails. Renewal brings courage, fresh opportunities, restored joy, and a recentering of life's purpose. The second path is refining, and it comes to those who are willing but not yet finished. Refining is not punishment, it is preparation. Just as gold is tested in fire so that impurities rise and can be removed, so will lives be tested in circumstances that press and stretch. This path is for those who need to let go of what cannot carry them forward. It is often uncomfortable because refining strips away illusions of control, false securities, and hidden compromises. Yet in the fire, the essence of a person shines. After October 31st, 2025, those who find themselves on this path will need patience, resilience, and trust. For what looks like loss will ultimately be gain, and what feels like breaking will become strengthening. The refining season is proof that destiny is not denied. It is only being purified. The third path is reckoning. This is the path of confrontation, the moment when reality arrives at the door of denial. Reckoning is not meant to destroy but to stop the drift. It comes when warnings have been ignored, when signs have been dismissed, when the heart has been hardened against what it knows to be true. For some, this reckoning may appear in relationships that can no longer survive deception, in finances that can no longer withstand dishonesty, or in health that can no longer bear neglect. For others, it may come as a sudden collapse of the structures they built on sand rather than stone. The reckoning is painful, but it is also merciful, for it offers a chance to wake up before it is too late. It is heaven's way of saying, "You cannot go further down this path. Turn back now." Each of us will walk one of these paths: renewal for the surrendered, refining for the willing, reckoning for the stubborn. The question is not which path exists, but which one we will face. The threshold does not ask permission, it reveals position. After October 31st, 2025, we cannot stand still. The door will swing, and each step we have taken up to this moment will guide us onto the road ahead. This keynote is both a warning and an invitation. If we choose humility today, we prepare ourselves for renewal. If we open ourselves to correction today, we embrace refining before it overwhelms us. And if we ignore both, the path of reckoning waits, not because life is cruel, but because truth cannot be outrun. Each path has its purpose, but only one leads with joy. The time to decide is now, before the threshold arrives and the choice is no longer in our hands, but in the harvest of what we have sown. For too long, people may believe that they can live behind masks, present an image that hides their true character, and build reputations on illusion rather than truth. But the threshold we are approaching is one where reality will begin to shine through, and the masks that once fit so well will suddenly fall away. Character will become currency, and shortcuts will no longer be able to sustain the weight of life. What was done in the dark will come into the light, and what was whispered in secret will echo in the open. This principle is not new. It has echoed through history and through every generation. Empires built on deception eventually crumbled. Movements sustained by dishonesty collapsed. And individuals who projected strength while hiding corruption eventually faced exposure. The difference now is that the pace is quickening. In the days following October 31st, 2025, we will see the acceleration of truth rising to the surface. This will not just happen on a global scale with leaders, corporations, or governments, but also on a personal scale within families, friendships, workplaces, and hearts. The season will force us to live authentically because anything less will not hold. For some, this unveiling will be terrifying because they have relied on their masks for too long. They have built their confidence on borrowed strength, their success on hollow shortcuts, and their relationships on appearances rather than substance. When the unveiling comes, they will feel as though the ground beneath them has given way. But for others, this season will be liberating. Those who have quietly labored in truth, who have chosen integrity when no one was clapping, who have endured misunderstanding for the sake of righteousness. They will find the light to be their ally. What was hidden in their lives will not be shame but testimony. The truth will not expose their failure but reveal their faithfulness. Shortcuts, once tempting, will collapse. The easy way that seemed profitable will show itself to be a trap. We will begin to see that platforms, those stages built for recognition, cannot survive without the foundation of altars, places of surrender and authenticity. In this new season, strength will not be measured by the size of the stage, but by the weight of character. Those who once relied on image alone will discover that image fades, but truth endures. On a deeper level, this unveiling is also an act of mercy. To be exposed is not only to be judged, it is to be given a chance to correct course. When illusions are stripped away, clarity appears. When deception is revealed, repentance becomes possible. To ignore exposure is to harden the heart. To embrace it is to step into freedom. The choice belongs to each person, but the unveiling itself cannot be avoided. This keynote reminds us that the threshold is not a neutral shift in time. It is a spiritual and moral turning point. After October 31st, 2025, the old ways of hiding will no longer work. Pretending will no longer protect us. It is better to confront our own truths now, to confess what needs confessing, to heal what needs healing, to strengthen what has been neglected, than to be forced into the light unprepared. The revealing will come. The question is whether it will crush or cleanse, whether it will shame or set free. What will emerge on the other side of this threshold depends on how we prepare today. If we cling to masks, they will eventually betray us. But if we cultivate character, if we choose authenticity, if we decide to walk in integrity now, then when the unveiling comes, it will not be our downfall but our confirmation. The hidden will be revealed, and for those who have chosen wisely, that revelation will not bring fear but joy. After October 31st, 2025, the world will not reward distraction and superficiality the way it once did. What will matter most are the foundations we have laid: prayer, integrity, family service, and the unseen pillars that carry the weight of our lives. This keynote reminds us that while platforms and recognition may crumble, altars endure. Platforms are stages where people seek applause, but altars are places where lives are surrendered, renewed, and aligned with eternal truth. In the days ahead, the world will not ask how many followers you had, but what you built that could not be shaken. To return is to acknowledge where we drifted. Many have left the table of family for the table of endless work, left the quiet place of prayer for the noisy world of distraction, left the pursuit of integrity for the easier path of compromise. Returning means facing the reality that what we neglected did not disappear, it simply grew weak in our absence. Families feel the cracks when fathers and mothers forget their role as builders of stability. Communities lose strength when service is abandoned for selfish ambition. Hearts grow restless when prayer is neglected, leaving us chasing peace that never settles. To return is to retrace those steps, to pick up what was dropped, and to breathe life again into what truly sustains us. Rebuilding is the next step, and rebuilding always costs something. It requires time, energy, humility, and sacrifice. To rebuild integrity means correcting old patterns, saying no when before we said yes too easily, telling the truth even when a lie would be more convenient, and living consistently whether or not anyone is watching. To rebuild family means investing presence more than presence, sitting at the dinner table, listening with patience, building memories that technology cannot replace. To rebuild prayer is to set aside moments daily where heaven has our attention, where we pour out gratitude, questions, fears, and surrender, and allow divine strength to flow back into us. To rebuild service is to shift from asking, "What do I get?" to "What can I give?" in every space we enter. The call to rebuild is not only personal, it is generational. What we rebuild now becomes the inheritance for those who follow. If we rebuild character, we pass down courage. If we rebuild honesty, we pass down trust. If we rebuild faith, we pass down stability. But if we refuse, if we keep patching broken walls with temporary fixes, those who come after us will inherit the collapse. That is why the threshold after October 31st, 2025 is not simply a doorway for individuals, but for households, communities, and nations. The health of tomorrow is decided by the repairs we choose today. Returning and rebuilding may feel small, but small acts create great shifts. A father who chooses to lead his family in prayer again may ignite a legacy of faith. A mother who chooses forgiveness instead of resentment may heal a cycle of pain. A young person who refuses to bow to peer pressure and instead builds their life on values may inspire courage in others to do the same. Each of these is a brick, and brick by brick, the altar rises, the home strengthens, the future stabilizes. So, when the door of this threshold swings open, will you be found scrambling to hold together broken fragments, or standing firm on foundations you have rebuilt with care? To return is humility, to rebuild is discipline, and together they lead to resilience. This keynote is not simply a call to look back, but to build forward, to decide that what matters most will no longer be neglected. After October 31st, 2025, the question will not be how high you climbed, but what you built that could stand when the shaking came. Altars will remain. Families will endure. Character will last. What you rebuild now will be your testimony then. After October 31st, 2025, the season ahead will not favor those who rely on excuses or hesitation, but those who take action, even in small ways, guided by conviction rather than convenience. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it. And obedience is not passive compliance, it is active alignment with what is right, even when it is unpopular or difficult. Together, courageous obedience becomes the engine that breaks cycles, unlocks new beginnings, and reshapes the course of lives. Many imagine obedience as something heavy, restrictive, or limiting, but in truth it is liberating. To obey the pull of truth, to follow the prompting of conscience, is to walk into freedom rather than remain chained to fear. Fear always tries to whisper, "Stay where you are. Don't try. Don't step." But courageous obedience answers back, "I will go. I will build. I will speak. I will trust." This is not blind recklessness, but wise boldness. It is the daily decision to take the next right step, even when the entire staircase is not visible. After the threshold, opportunities will appear, but they will not open for those who wait to feel ready. They will open for those who are willing to move forward while still trembling. A person who waits for the perfect moment will miss it because perfect moments rarely come. But a person who acts with obedience, even in imperfection, finds that the door swings open wider than expected. What once seemed impossible begins to yield. Where fear said, "You can't," obedience proves, with faith, "You can." Think of it like planting seeds of action. A single decision to forgive someone today begins to heal a fractured relationship tomorrow. A single choice to speak the truth in love begins to shift an entire culture of dishonesty in a workplace. A single step of generosity, buying groceries for a struggling neighbor, giving time to someone in need, sparks a ripple effect of kindness that spreads far beyond what we see. Each act of courageous obedience is small in the moment, but together they accumulate into a harvest of transformation. There will be resistance. Courageous obedience never goes unchallenged. Fear will rise louder before the step is taken. Doubt will creep in and whisper, "What if you fail? What if you are mocked? What if this costs too much?" But the truth is, failing to act always costs more. Staying silent when you should speak costs your integrity. Staying still when you should move costs your purpose. Delaying when you know what must be done costs opportunities that may not return. The threshold after October 31st, 2025 will not wait for hesitation. It will reward those who move with resolve. This lesson reminds us that courage is not a grand display. It is a collection of small obediences lived daily. It looks like choosing honesty in a conversation. It looks like resisting temptation when no one is watching. It looks like pursuing excellence in work, even when applause is absent. These are the hidden obediences that prepare us for the visible opportunities. When the door opens, those who practiced obedience in the small things will walk through it with confidence. Those who ignored it will find themselves scrambling to catch up. Courageous obedience reshapes not only our lives, but the lives of those around us. Children watching a parent stand firm in values will inherit courage themselves. Communities watching one person act with integrity will be inspired to do the same. Friends observing consistent kindness will be moved to mirror it. Obedience multiplies. Courage spreads. A single life aligned with conviction can spark a movement. So as the threshold nears, do not wait for fear to disappear. Fear may never leave. Instead, decide that your choices will not be governed by it. Take the step, say the word, write the vision, build the altar, forgive the debt, confront the lie. Walk in courageous obedience, and the doors locked by fear will swing wide to reveal a future brighter than you imagined. You said, ChatGPT said the truth is that after October 31st, 2025, the shift will not be isolated to individuals alone, but will ripple outward into families, workplaces, neighborhoods, and even nations. One person's courage, one household's faithfulness, one community's choice to align with truth can ignite change far greater than what was intended. In times of shaking, people instinctively search for stability, and stability is rarely found in institutions or systems alone. It is discovered in people of peace who stand firm in storms. Community awakening is when men and women rise not only for themselves but for each other, becoming lights in the darkness and anchors in the chaos. Awakening is not merely about excitement or emotion, it is about clarity and conviction. When communities awaken, they begin to see beyond distractions and reclaim the values that sustain life. They turn away from division and rediscover unity in purpose. They shift from competition to collaboration, from isolation to connection. After the threshold of October 31st, 2025, these awakenings will often begin quietly, in ordinary places, among ordinary people, at kitchen tables, in classrooms, on street corners, in break rooms. But what starts small will carry a force that spreads outward, as fire spreads from one candle to another, until the entire room is illuminated. The beauty of community awakening is that it does not require everyone at once. It often begins with a few who decide to live differently, a small group of co-workers who pray before making hard decisions, a circle of friends who choose honesty over gossip, a family who opens their home to neighbors in need. These simple, faithful actions ripple outward, awakening others who may have been asleep to their own potential. When people see courage in action, it awakens courage within them. When they see integrity rewarded, it strengthens their resolve to choose the same. In this season, the communities that thrive will not be the ones with the most resources or the loudest voices, but the ones with the strongest bonds of trust. Trust will become the new currency. Neighbors who trust each other will share what they have. Leaders who are trusted will guide with wisdom rather than force. Families who trust one another will weather crises without splintering. Trust multiplies hope, and hope fuels awakening. But awakening will also bring exposure. Communities built on pretense or selfish ambition will find themselves unraveling because the shaking of the threshold reveals foundations. Where there is division, it will deepen unless confronted. Where there is apathy, it will spread unless challenged. The season ahead requires intentional cultivation, choosing to invest in relationships, to speak life into others, to carry burdens together rather than alone. Those who isolate themselves may survive, but they will not thrive. Those who awaken together will discover resilience that no storm can overcome. This keynote reminds us that awakening is not only about survival, but about influence. Communities that rise together will become lighthouses for those wandering in confusion. A city that values truth and service will inspire surrounding cities. A business that operates with integrity will force others in the industry to re-examine their practices. A school that chooses to build character as well as knowledge will shape a generation of leaders. These are the sparks of revival that spread when awakening takes root. Community awakening is about remembering that we are not designed to walk alone. The challenges after October 31st, 2025 will test individuals, but they will also test the strength of bonds between us. Will we choose division, or will we rise together? Will we compete for survival, or will we unite for transformation? The answer will shape not just personal destinies, but collective futures. When the threshold comes, may it find us not scattered but gathered. May it find us not divided but united. May it find us not asleep but awake, ready to carry one another, to stand together, and to light the way for a world that desperately needs hope. This awakening will not simply change a few hearts, it will reshape entire communities into places where peace, truth, and love overflow into every corner. That is the power of community awakening. October 31st, 2025, the world will not simply roll into another date, it will cross into a threshold. What happens next is not random. It is the harvest of seeds already sown, the unveiling of what was hidden, the shaking that reveals what can and cannot stand. Some will enter renewal, others refining, and still others reckoning. Masks will fall, shortcuts will collapse, and only character, integrity, and truth will endure. But this is not a message of fear. It is a message of awakening. Each of us still has the power to return, to rebuild, to choose courageous obedience, and to light the flame of community awakening. We cannot control the seasons, but we can decide our response. We cannot rewrite yesterday, but we can plant different seeds today. And we cannot stop the threshold from arriving, but we can choose the path we will walk when it does. So the conclusion is simple yet urgent: prepare now. Live with conviction. Stand in truth. Build altars, not platforms. Choose courage over fear, obedience over hesitation, and unity over division. When the door swings open after October 31st, 2025, let it not find you unready or drifting, but awake, steady, and already walking in the light. For those who prepare, the future will not be something to dread, but something to embrace, a season of clarity, strength, and hope.